out there, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk, Let's Think. I am your host, Carrie Braggs. Glad to see you out in the audience, and today I am joined by none other than Gabe Phifer, who is also a fellow brother with the YouTube channels and putting that information out there that makes us think about it. He has a YouTube channel called St. John the Philosopher. So, my brother, why don't you just give them a little bit of background about what it is you do on your YouTube channel before we get off into this video.
All right. Well, my usual spiel is that I'm a number of eclectic things. I'm a black conservative and I am a Christian rocket scientist. And the culture would suggest to you that those things don't go together, but I beg to differ. And on my YouTube channel, I like to talk about religion, culture, and politics from my unique perspective, throwing in a lot of pop culture references because I'm kind of a big nerd. So I like to throw into some Star Wars clips and some Marvel movie clips and things like that. And in fact, the last YouTube video I did was really just kind of an exploration of a particular scene from a Marvel movie. And at the very end, I talk a little bit about what the cultural implications are that kind of the messages that are going through that movie. And I think I have a fun time doing that, and I hope you do too watching.
Yeah, I always enjoy watching your videos. They are always very thought-provoking. And we're here to talk about one of those hot button topics, which is abortion. And I know everybody in the room now, oh, how dare they? Are they for or against? And everybody's sitting there on the edge of their seat. Relax. That's why we talk about it and we think about it. See, here it's not about what side you're on, but it's about being able to express why you are on this side and understand why people are on the other side.
Right.
And so it's not just going to be one of those bashing one side or the others, but just to let you know, spoiler alert, I am against abortion, and so is he. So just letting you know where we stand coming out the gate.
Yeah.
And so when you look at this, when you look at this topic, you get so many things in the news. There are a lot of lies. There's a lot of divisiveness when it comes to the media and politics and everything. But we want to have a discussion and give you all a chance to kind of look at different things that you don't see in the media all the time. And so Brother Gabe and I, we were talking last week, and he was talking about saying, let's do a video talking about the different victories that we have had in the pro-life movement for things going forward. But before we go into that, I wanted to explain what abortion is to begin with, because when you look at the media, they're not truthful with what it actually is. No. So I'm going to take the time right now, right in front of everybody, to pull it up on my phone and ask Google, hey Google, what is the definition of abortion?
According to Wikipedia, definitions of abortion vary from one source to another.
It didn't say that a minute ago.
No, it did not.
Before I said I was pro-life and that he was pro-life, it told me that abortion was the ending of a life.
Human pregnancy.
Yeah, so okay.
All right.
Okay, so that's fine. So
yeah, they listening, y'all. They listening.
Yeah, that's interesting that it just did that.
That's okay. Do it again. Wait, hit it and try it again. I want to see.
Okay. What is the definition of abortion?
Here's the definition of abortion. The deliberate termination of a human pregnancy, most often performed during the first 28 weeks of pregnancy.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Now that's what it said the first time. So, as it said it is a deliberate termination of a human pregnancy, most often performed during the first 28 weeks of pregnancy. So it's not tissue, it's not goop, it's not gel, it's not any of the different things you hear. Instead of them wanting you to know what it is and it being called a baby. No, it's not a baby, it's a fetus. And so they changed all of these things up.
Yeah.
But the definition, so we need to go by definition, not what we feel, not what we think, not whether we are pro-life or pro-choice, but let's be able to agree on what the definition of abortion is, that it is the termination of a human pregnancy. So
Now the interesting thing about the whole word games that pro-abortion people tend to play is that they say, no, not a baby, but a fetus. But fetus is just Latin for baby. You know, it's a term used to describe a period in human development. In the same way that we talk about adolescence or pre-adolescence or childhood, or adulthood,
or that stage.
Sexual maturity, or
geriatric.
the geriatric period. So these are just division along the line of human development.
Okay.
But the to go with your talk about definitions, the definition of what the thing is that is going through that period of development is always human.
Right.
So whether you're a fetus or a zygote or any of those things, right? Those are still human. It's just at an earlier stage of development.
Right. And if you just cut straight to the chase of the reality of it, when people talk about these different stages of it, it doesn't matter. At conception, once a woman finds out that she is pregnant, that she is going to produce a baby. Yeah. We already know this. So anything at whatever stage or how many weeks she is, it's stopping that baby from being born, killing that baby. Right. And so...
and it's not a surprise. She's not going to deliver jellyfish.
Exactly.
She's not going to deliver, a goat. It's a human baby.
Right, and that's the thing, that they muddy the water to make it seem like that it's, before it became a baby, we did this, and so it really doesn't count. And I'll be honest, because within this show, I'm going to play devil's advocate several times. Sure. Because my past. Back in the day, years ago, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was pro-choice. I believed that it was not a baby until 3 months. I believed that it was a woman's choice. And, so I was going along with the information that was out there. And this is what I was thinking. And so I remember they were having a pro-life rally out in Clayton. I used to work at the Kentucky Fried Chicken that was out there across the street from the Galleria.
All right.
And they were lined up all down Brentwood Boulevard, pro-lifers and everything. And when they came in there to order food or get water, now honestly, once again, I was not a Christian back then, and they hadn't done anything to me. They were the nicest people, but I was angry with them that day. I was actually treating them, wrong. They coming in and they like, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. What do you want? Order your food so you can go. I mean, and they were the nicest people, but it just shows how I bought into the lies. And so that made me emotional, not even thinking what the other side may be, or even respecting. And that's the key thing, respecting that they have a right to their views too. Just because at that point in time I didn't agree with them, that did not mean that I should have had hostility towards them. Right. And so that's where I was back then. But you fast forward some, and that could have caused me to abort my oldest son at that time, because my oldest son was born when I was 22, and I was still in that frame of mind back then. But by the blessing of the Lord, he still kept me from going that route or pushing the issue on something like that, and he allowed me to get to this stage. And so I just wanted to kind of set the stage as we move forth and we talk about the different areas of abortion, that we're clear on what each side believes and why. And so I'm going to defer to Brother Gabe. So I know you wanted to talk about some of the different victories that have been going on. And if you could, I would like you to kind of clarify why it's a victory, because I think those who may still be pro-choice, they'll look at this video and they're like, no, that's not a victory. Right. This is this legislation, it's against women's rights and all these different things. But once again, we're explaining our side as we talk about their side as well. Right.
And just to start off, the things that I would consider victories are things that make illegal abortion. My preference is that all abortion everywhere would be illegal, the same way it's illegal to kill an innocent person in any other circumstance.
Right.
So, because the thing is, if you come at the abortion issue from the stance that is a human individual
Yes.
at the point of from the point of conception, then what you do is you automatically assign that human individual the same value as the life of any other human person. So now that changes the conversation completely. It's not simply about, well, I want to do with my body what I want to do with my body. It changes it. So the thing is, you can't, if you don't believe that that's a human life, it makes sense to be able to have to be pro-choice. It makes sense if you don't think it's a human person.
Right.
But once you make that acknowledgement, the only intellectually consistent way to go is that you want no abortions.
Right.
Because you don't want people to die.
Right.
So what I would consider victories are these latest bans that have taken the abortion bans further and further earlier into pregnancy. So I think 4 states. I think you've got Georgia, Kentucky, and Ohio, and one other that I can't remember offhand. But they've just recently got 6-week bans, I think. So up to the 6th week of pregnancy, you can have an abortion, but after 6 weeks, they're banned.
Now I think here in Missouri they signed it into law that it's up to 8 weeks.
It's 8 weeks.
Believe.
8 weeks in Missouri, and then Alabama went so far as a full ban. It's a full ban.
Right.
Now, I think they know what they're doing. They're looking for that Supreme Court challenge, and I think they're looking forward to be able to make their case, because there's a massive case to be made. I think one of the benefits of the modern age, that we have in our technology now, is the ultrasounds have gotten so clear, and they've got the 3D and the 4D ultrasounds now. You can basically see video.
Yes,
full video.
Yes, I've seen
of little babies in the womb. So it's you can't look at an 8-week-old little baby. It looks like a little baby.
Right.
It looks like a baby. So it's
right.
So it makes it so much easier to make the case. So
right.
So I take all of those legislative passages as victories for the pro-life movement, and I think we all should.
Right. And another thing that I noticed another thing I would like to point out as this conversation progresses is the fact of how it's kind of what I call bait and switch.
Mm-hmm.
They make it seem like they make it seem like this is what it's about, but then they move over to something else where you're like, hold up, I thought this was about the baby, but it's like, no, it's not about the baby. It's about the woman's rights.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like, so if you're just saying this is about the woman's rights, then you're not even discussing whether it's a baby or not. It's just sitting up saying that I have the right to do whatever I want with my body, but this is not just about the woman's body, because this is a whole nother person here.
Yeah.
This is a whole nother person that we're dealing with here.
One of the interesting things about the bans, in the wording of the legislation, often they'll refer to the detection of a heartbeat, right, of a fetal heartbeat. And what's interesting is that it immediately blows up the narrative of the my body, my choice crowd, because no human has 2 hearts.
Exactly.
So the minute we detect another heart, we know there's another human present.
Right.
So it's not
like
an issue.
a Klingon or something.
Yeah, exactly. You're an alien. Yeah.
Right.
You're some sort of alien creature or something like, oh yes, that's my second heart.
Right.
I'm in my stage of developing it now. So yeah, it's very interesting that the my body, my choice crowd, they, like you said, they step right over the argument of whether or not an unborn child is human.
Right.
And they just make the assumption that it doesn't matter.
Right.
Or it's not
her choice.
And it's her choice.
Her choice, right, to do these things with her body. I believe that it was a child and it was wrong. Once I became a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But even though I was a Christian, I still was kind of leery of what I felt was still stepping over that line, telling somebody else that you shouldn't get an abortion or whatever, still looking at circumstances and things like that. So
Yeah.
I recall a friend years ago, she was in a relationship with a guy, you know, and she was feeling like they weren't going to make it. She was talking about all the different things that was going on, just a bad situation.
Sure.
And next thing you know, she like, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, she called me for advice. Wow, here we go. Christians, if you're out there, I'm telling you, when does it become real? So I'm just laying this out here. So when she called me and talked to me about it, I was like, you know, she brought up abortion. I'm like, I think you should go ahead and get an abortion because, you know, with this situation, you don't want to have to deal with this situation with you and him if you're not planning on being with him and all these different things. Once again, it's a deflection of what's really at stake here. It wasn't about her and him and whether or not they're going to be together. You all have produced a life here.
Right.
You all have done something that has a child or a human life growing inside of you. And we having a conversation about, once again, whether this is a good situation or this is going to be a good situation. And after that, I felt beyond convicted by the Holy Spirit. And so I'm here to say, that day it became real for me, and I'm here to tell you, this young man was born. He's 18 years old now, has several colleges looking for him right now to sign him up as a quarterback. And so that just goes to show, you know, God within the background moving within things when we are looking at the wrong things. So I throw that challenge out there for some of you out there who are pro-choice. Maybe you're looking at the wrong things.
Yeah.
You know, the question gets asked a lot of times where I hear people say, what if your parents aborted you? And you hear the pro-choice people like, well, that was their choice and all this, but they really didn't want that. You really didn't want that.
You didn't even think about that, that answer. You're just thrown out there to maintain your position. But the interesting thing about having those conversations about circumstances, and you know, and that's kind of usually where the pro-choice arguments tend to go. It's like, well, what about this poor girl? What about this poor girl? What about this poor girl? And it's an appeal to our emotional and our due and proper emotional reaction to the bad circumstances that people are feeling and going through. And you know, one of the catchphrases for the pro-life movement has often been "love them both." So you know, you take care of the mother and the child, and you know, in that way. But it occurs to me though that when we have these conversations about, you know, even if it's not hypothetical, even if it's a real conversation, the thing you need to do is put the baby on the table in between. I mean, that's the you want to get real with it. That's actually getting real with it. Okay, now let's say we actually had this baby. This is a 1-month-old baby. It's a bad situation. This baby's sitting right here, and we're having that same discussion to get rid of this because of the other issues. That seems so much more sinister, doesn't it? But that's the reality of it. You know, when you're discussing the possibility of abortion with a pregnant woman, you're discussing the possible execution of a person who is in the room with her. Right then. So when you look at it that way, it changes the conversation.
And then what about another thing that I look at, because a lot of times, once again, is hostility and they don't want to have the conversation. And so my thing is that, what about other options? So I've thought about, once again, there's adoption. Once again, there's abstinence. You don't have to.
You can start there.
You don't have to be doing something that creates a child that you make a decision to kill. Let me say that again. You don't have to be doing something that creates a child that you now make a decision that I'm going to kill this child. Abstinence. You don't have to be doing that. Also, you can carry the child and put the child up for adoption if you choose, once again, that you're not ready to be a parent and all these different things. People have many different reasons and things like that, but that still allows that child, that focuses on the child's rights as well. Because we can't just keep it in in that box. Like you say, when you put the child on the table, they have to deal with that reality of it.
Yes.
Right now, it's just a lot of talk going on, and people aren't really looking at the reality of it. It kind of reminds me of Solomon when
the two women.
The two women, right? The two women.
It's
and
my
brought
baby.
the baby, right?
No, it's my baby.
And then he said, okay, well, let's cut the baby in half. And the one lady was like, well, go ahead, do it. But then the other lady was like, no, let her have the baby.
Right.
And that allowed Solomon to know that was the true mother, because a true mother would not let her child die, whether she has him or not. He's still alive.
Right. That was
And
the
that-
important part of that story, right?
Right. And
The
that's-
recognition of the value of the baby.
Right, and that's the thing. Once again, the value of life, pro-life within those situations.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a matter of getting people away from the talking points. We've gotten to where it's just talking and not putting anything in place. So like the victories you were just talking about earlier.
Yes.
Some of the things that they don't realize that are on the table is, was that in New York where they passed the bill to where they can kill the baby up until the baby is born? So once again, now mind you, now let's look at this reality. We're not talking whether it's a goop and jail and all of this, whether it has a heartbeat or not. This is a baby to where, once again, this is a baby getting ready to be born. He comes out of the uterus and he's getting ready to be born. And so now she's still up until that point. If she tried to have an abortion and he survived it, now they say, even though he survived the abortion, do you want to kill him? No, that's what it is. We're not going to play games.
Yeah.
We can't talk their language. You can't. When you talk their language, then
You're getting
that makes
around.
it right. It makes it seem like that's a choice or that's part of the conversation, which it is not.
Right.
So now she gets to make a choice on whether or not, hey, he survived the abortion. So do you want us to kill him? You want us to, give him away for adoption? Because I saw the interview with the governor from Virginia, where he said that if the child survived, then
you make it comfortable and then you have a conversation.
Right, with the mother,
and the doctor.
Whether or not
It's amazing. It was
they
amazing.
want. And so once again, now you just think about that. When babies are born, if you've ever been in the operating room, I've been in there with 3 of my children when they were born. And so I saw them born. They came out, legs and arms moving, they're crying and everything. So you just imagine that.
Hey, look, that's a little human.
Exactly. Exactly. This is a human being, but now they've got it to the point to where they tried to kill this human being from coming out, moving his arms and legs and crying, and now that it made it anyway, it's like, so now it's out, it's crying, moving his arms and legs, and they say, sit him over there on the table. So what do you think? Should we?
If we put him in the back room, he might die eventually.
Right, let's put him in the back.
Yeah.
You won't hear him crying,
Yes.
and you
look,
go on with your day.
And this isn't hyperbole. This happens. It has happened, and it continues to happen today.
Right.
There are people, former abortion workers,
Right,
who have testified about these
Yes.
things. So we're not. This isn't the hypotheticals, right? We're not living in the world of hypotheticals. Like,
Right.
well, what if this poor girl is being abused and blah, blah. Yes, that happens too. But look, we're talking about babies dying. That's really what it is, and you can't get around that fact. And the more we give ground up to those who want to obscure it with language, the harder it's going to be to actually convince people.
Right. And that makes me think about, so once again, why are these laws important?
Right.
Because once again, if you notice, it all starts with different things. There are certain things that are thrown out there to test situations to open the door. So I'll just use, for example, with gay marriage. That was the thing that pushed the door open for transgenderism and many other things that have followed behind it. Now it's
the multi-genderism.
Right. So it's just so many different things to where you just can't keep up with it. But it was that one thing that opened the door. And once again, it was, if two people love each other, what's the problem?
Right.
They didn't discuss the big picture on why it's, marriage is between a man and a woman. So that's the same thing they're doing here. So if you open the door for killing a child like this and saying, hey, it's her right. It's her right to do that. What's to stop us from going further when, she may not want to give medical attention to one of her other children who may be injured? I mean, I know some of you out there are saying we're going too far, but no, we're not. If she's going to kill a helpless child that is getting ready to be born because it's inconveniencing her, because once again, you even look at the name Planned Parenthood. If this was not planned, if you were not planning to be a parent right now, we'll help you out. We'll take care of that. We'll take that baby off your hands. We'll kill him. Oh no, it's not a baby. We'll take that. Give it a cook.
Yes, we'll relieve you of the burden of pregnancy.
Exactly. And so you won't even discuss what the see, and that's how they word things.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to look at that on why that's so important.
Oh yeah.
With different things coming down the pipe, so to speak, behind this, and say, well, that went through, let's push it a little further. And that seems to be what's going on out here with different things.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take, if you take an intellectual stance on any position, you have to take that intellectual stance out to its logical conclusion in all directions, right? So if a human pregnancy does not result in a human until the mother decides that it's human, right? That's what the logic is actually telling you from the pro-choice position. Right. If a woman is 2 months pregnant, she finds out she's pregnant and she wants the baby, they have a party. And they say, how far along are you with the baby? How's the baby doing? Do you know what the gender of the baby is, right? And baby. Right? If the woman doesn't want her pregnancy 2 months in, how can we relieve you of this burden? How we would like to remove that clump of cells from you, right? All of a sudden, it's not a baby anymore. Right. So what we've decided intellectually is that the mother gets to decide the humanity of her child at any stage, right? So now take that out to its logical conclusion. What magical thing happens through the birth canal that suddenly makes it human to everybody else? He's still dependent on his mother. He still requires her, her attention and love and constant care. If you in what was it, the old Greek and Roman days, if you didn't want your baby, you left it out in the woods. Right. What's stopping you intellectually, following along the same line? What's stopping a modern American woman from making the same decision that this 3-year-old is too much trouble? My husband just lost his job. I'm going through a lot of medical trouble. I just can't take this anymore. Right. I'm going to kill this child. Right. We still have laws on the books that say that's murder, but there's no intellectual backing to support it, given what we've already decided on abortion. So that's kind of why the legislative victories are important, is because now we're putting teeth to we're challenging the intellectual argument for abortion, and we're putting teeth on our opposition. Right. To put the reality back into it that this is a human. Yes. We're not going to let you move the conversation, and that's what's been done up to this point, to where the conversation has been moved all around, and people, and see, that's the thing, people are allowing these conversations to go forth. So really, you need to stop having that conversation. If someone talks about a woman's rights, then we need to talk about the baby's rights, because the baby is a human. But once again, hey, this is a whole nother human inside of you. So what, as you were saying, what gives you the authority to say whether another human being lives or dies? Right. And then what's to stop, as you saying, humanity from taking it further to say, well, I do have the right to decide who lives or dies. So it starts with abortion, then it starts with euthanasia
Right,
is
right.
on the other end, right?
Right.
So we've got the very, very young, the weakest among us, the very, very old, who are the weakest among us. And we make these decisions for them. We say, you know what, this person's quality of life is diminished, right? They're either too physically decrepit, or they're too mentally deficient,
Right.
or they're
not
contributing members of society.
Right, there you go.
Yeah. So that okay. Well, euthanasia is just fine. I vote to kill my disabled wife, my disabled husband, because they're too much of a burden on me and society, and they're not good for anything, basically. Right? So then, let's take that logical thing to its conclusion. Why aren't we getting rid of the homeless, or the mentally deficient, or the crazies?
Yes.
Right? It's like, it's a Soylent Green is people, right?
Right.
That's kind of the world we end up in, isn't it? Because we make these decisions about human life. We take on the role of God, and now it's unlimited.
Right.
You
Now,
want-
watch out now. Watch
Yeah,
out now,
I
bringing
saw-
God into the conversation, because
well.
then that's a whole nother can of worms. Okay, there you go with that. I don't believe in God and all these different things. So, but
Sure.
that's
Yeah,
another part of the
yeah.
conversation. So.